become, challenge, and develop. Today, we'll be transforming how we approach executive leader development with the ABCDs of raising little leaders. But before we begin, I want you to close your eyes and think of a child that you know or love. It could be a student, an athlete, your child, or your best friend's child. In my case, you can open your eyes now. In my case, I'll be sharing a story about how my niece helped me become a better executive coach. It was Thanksgiving. I was stuffing my face with all the food that was on the table, feeling like I was about to explode. And that's when my sweet 7-year-old niece came up to me and asked, "Teacher Justin, do you want to play catch outside?" I panicked. I've been coaching cheerleading for the past 15 years, so I know how to catch people, not softballs. But of course, I can't say no to that sweet, pouting face and her innocent eyes. So here we go, walking outside about to play catch. We finally find a place in a parking lot where we hopefully won't get hit by a car. And I looked over at my niece and I saw something different. She was focused, eyes locked onto me. She threw the ball and I dropped it. She said, "You have to say die bird when the ball hits the floor." So I followed her lead and shouted back, "Die bird!" We laughed and threw the ball for what felt like hours. That is until I threw the ball and the ball hit a car. My niece was jaw-dropped. Thankfully for me, it only hit the tire and no damage was done to the car. But we use that as an opportunity to stop and talk about what happens when an accident like that occurs. To the untrained ear, this might seem like a simple game of catch, but to a leader development expert like me, I saw it as an opportunity to help my niece become tomorrow's executive. During the day, I'm a leader development specialist and executive coach for a small nonprofit where we help everyday leaders reach their maximum potential. And at night, I help transform losing cheerleading gyms into championship-winning programs by developing the leadership capacity of the staff, the athletes, and their collective families. Now, in both of these roles, developing leaders is just something that I do. But this was the simple game of catch that taught me I have a unique role as a gunkle to help my niece become tomorrow's executive. In fact, research supports that children begin learning about positive and toxic forms of leadership as early as the age of 5. Like little seeds, they absorb all the information around them and use it to blossom into the leaders of tomorrow. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Every executive that you could possibly think about shares something in common with a child that you know and love today. They're learning critical thinking skills from their teachers in the classroom. They're building grit and learning how to work with a team from their coaches at practice. And they might even have a favorite aunt or uncle in the crowd today that's helping them become more fun and empathetic. So why is it that when these children grow up to be the executives that sit across from me, they struggle to affirm that they could actually become the executive tomorrow? Why is it that little children like my niece and so many of the athletes that I coach struggle with the challenges of taking on leadership opportunities later on? The problem is simple. Organizations and society only really start to invest in executive leadership development when people are at their first job, or at best in high school. That means that for close to 10 years, children are absorbing and internalizing lies about who it can be a leader, what they look like, and what actually makes them effective. So now that we have the problem, what is the solution? How do we develop this next generation of executives and children to be the positive leaders that organizations spend thousands of dollars for? Thankfully, the answer is straightforward, and actually pretty gay forward too. If organizations and society truly wish to raise the best leaders, we must go beyond business as usual practices and think about how to raise little leaders, that is, executives as young as 4, across their lifespan. We need to intentionally affirm, become, challenge, and develop these little leaders so that when they grow up to be the executives of tomorrow, they can take charge of their own leadership destinies. So this all sounds very nice and fluffy, But how do we actually go about doing this? Well, after taking my expertise as a leader development specialist and a cheerleading coach, I'm taking us back to Leadership 101 with the ABCDs of raising little leaders. The ABCDs of raising little leaders are 4 simple actions that anyone can take to raise their child into tomorrow's executive. The 4 simple actions are affirm, become, challenge, and develop. Earlier, I asked you to think about a child that you know and love, and I want you to think about them again. But this time, imagine them as the CEO of a Fortune 500 company on the cover of a magazine. If it helps, they could be standing like this. Do you get it? Congratulations, you just successfully practiced the A of raising little leaders, which is affirming that anyone can be a little leader. Helping our children see themselves as tomorrow's executives starts with how we, as adults, see and treat them. As our children grow up, they begin to internalize lies about who can be a leader, what they look like, and what makes them effective. And oftentimes, these messages are at conflict with how they see themselves, reducing their leadership potential. By explicitly affirming their leadership potential, we not only increase their ability to see themselves as leaders later on, we can actually reduce some of that internal conflict that they feel. With my niece, I simply affirmed her by saying, I'm going to let you be the leader, and I followed her lead. With your little leader, you can share positive examples of leaders that are similar to them in gender, race, culture, beliefs, faiths, and even share common interests like fashion, technology, or my personal favorite interest, desserts. But even if we affirm our little leader's potential, how do we ensure that they can see what a good leader even looks like? The B stands for become. We could become more positive role models for our little leaders. And let's get it out there, becoming a more positive role model for our little leaders is challenging. I'm pretty sure we can all think of 1 or 2 cringy moments where we were just a little too toxic in front of our little leader. Even as a cheerleading coach, I can think of so many times where I wish I was more kind, more calm, and more understanding with my athletes. But the truth is, we're human, and we're gonna make mistakes. Becoming a more positive role model for our little leaders isn't about being perfect. It's about trying every day to be a better person and leader, one action at a time. We can actually work with our little leaders and find opportunities for ourselves to become more positive role models through observing, intentionally acting, and rewarding positive behaviors. Together, my niece and I observed a common problem. I hit a car. Oops. Next, we intentionally explore the actions out loud. I could lie and get in trouble for lying, or I could tell the truth and still get in trouble for hitting a car. Next, I intentionally acted like the leader that I wanted to be. I told the truth. And lastly, we rewarded the positive behavior by simply saying, even though that was hard, it's important for me to be honest because I want to be seen that way and people will know that I'm an honest person. Observing, intentionally acting, and rewarding positive behaviors are 3 simple strategies that anyone can take to become a more positive role model. And in doing so, we can actually teach our children even complex leadership skills like ethical decision making. But even if we become more positive role models, how do we ensure that they can build these leadership skills on their own? The next letter, C, stands for challenge. We can challenge our little leaders to take charge of their own development. Little leaders and executives both need the confidence to courageously lead and the competence to get the job done. But sometimes when we see our little leaders struggle, we can be a bit overprotective and want to fight their battles for them. When we overstep in these ways, not only are we hurting our little leaders' confidence, we reduce the chance that they actually see themselves as leaders later on. On the flip side, when we challenge them to take charge of their own leader development, not only are we building their confidence, we're giving them the opportunity to seek those behaviors and opportunities later on when they become executives. At my cheerleading gym, we challenge our little leaders to take charge by allowing them to lead our warm-up activity for even new athletes. With your little leader, you can simply say, I'm going to challenge you to figure that out because I believe that you can. And if you can't, I'll be here to support you. You can challenge them to talk to their teachers or their coaches about ways that they can improve. Challenge them to find better ways to work with their sibling, again, and even challenge them to take accountability for the mistakes that they make, and still provide them the love, feedback, and support that they desperately need. So even if we affirm that anyone could be a little leader, become more positive role models, and challenge them to take charge of their own development, how do we deal with this overarching problem that society and organizations only start to invest in executives' development when they're at their first job or in high school? The final letter, D, stands for Develop Your Little Leaders Community. As the old expression goes, it takes a village to raise a child, and the same is true for little leaders. The truth is, you don't need a PhD in executive leadership development, be an executive coach, or even have a child of your own to have a positive impact on a little leader. The truth is, anyone can help construct a positive environment filled with resources and relationship to help that child blossom. Currently, my niece is in softball. You can develop your little leaders community by enrolling them in extracurriculars like Model UN, cheerleading, or even cultural groups like Filipino Club. The good news is, before today, you were already practicing the ABCDs of raising little leaders. But after today, I hope that you pause to be more intentional. Because when we're intentional, we're not only more likely to make progress towards that intention, we're also more likely to achieve that intention as well. So think about your little leader just one last time. Think about just one way that you can intentionally affirm that anyone can be a little leader. Become a more positive role model. Challenge them to take charge of their own development and develop your little leaders community. We must practice these ABCDs of raising little leaders and nurture this next generation, because investing in leaders goes beyond just helping them in the workplace later on. It helps the individual child and their community thrive. In my work with both executives and little leaders, I can tell you that this work is as rewarding as it is challenging. In my work with executives, I've seen adults become the executives that they only dreamed about becoming. In my work with cheerleaders, I've seen children as young as 4 embody the positive qualities that organizations only want from their leaders. And now, as a gunkle, I have a unique opportunity to help my niece become tomorrow's executive, if that's what she wants. So now it's your turn to affirm, become, challenge, and develop this next generation of leaders, because they're not just the leaders of tomorrow. They are, in fact, the leaders of today. So are you ready? Catch.